Right.
I think their success rate has been like 50-50. I don't think that's convincing enough for them going into the really important best of threes at the main event for them to not ban it. I would agree, though, that they're mainly experimenting against the teams they have less intel on. Whether they'll meet them again in the main event is then the question, right? It's hard to say because their first matchup will be against a team from the other group, and then it depends on how the other matches play out. It's possible they meet teams from the other group the whole way, in theory, right? That could happen.
Yeah.
So if they go to the top, if they start in the winners bracket, that could happen.
That could happen.
I think it's just really risky giving away Leshrac. It depends on the player. The two that we've seen dominate today, CTY and Maybe, those are like the mid laners that are very, very, very good. As opposed to like a little bit more passive one. I think Super was given Leshrac the other day, and it wasn't like that bad for them. Like he didn't win. He got a lot of farm, but he didn't like snowball out of control. So there are players that if you give them a one-on-one situation where they will thrive, I think it was our key characteristics for eHome, like they will run away with it. And I mean, maybe going godlike in like 15 minutes against Secret is testament to that.
Yeah, at the same time, them not having to ban out Leshrac does leave them open to ban out those heroes that they don't want to deal with versus a specific team, which we have seen them do against multiple teams, just ban out completely random heroes, as in different heroes versus every team, depending on what they don't want to face specific for that team. But maybe for certain teams, they should make the exception or put Leshrac into one of those two as well.
Right, but again, I mean, since they are in the lead in the group, just gathering more intel as we go, and that's the point we always come back to. E.g., the more intel they have, definitely just they amplify in value based on that intelligence they have of the other teams. Whereas, most people, you gather some intel, but it's more about their condition, how they're feeling that day, how efficient they are about their play. But E.g. definitely swaps their drafts very drastically, I feel, from day 1, day 2, and then now coming into day 3.
And at the end of the day, the thing that matters in a tournament like this is the end result, not how you got there. So, it looks cool if you have a group stage where you go like 7-0-0. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you get first or preferably first place. I think they would be okay with second place as well, just as long as they're in the upper half of the winners bracket or in the upper half of the group rather. So, it's kind of in contrast to Secret at DAC, flawless group stage. They end third. EG had a little bit of a. They still had a really good group stage at that event, by the way, but they did not go the entirely flawless one. I think they had like 14-2 or something instead of 16-0, which was also incredible, right?
Right, yeah. Not to take away from that.
I would definitely consider this a valuable investment. As long as they use it the right way, then you could definitely sacrifice or
But
get
they're not ahead in the group stage. Like if you look at the standings right now, they are actually not.
Yeah, now it's actually getting really exciting. So I don't know if we're reading too much into it because it is just possible that they think giving away Lesh is good in certain conditions.
Right.
I think
it's not just an experiment, but they just think the trade we get here and our game plan will actually make the hero weak. They've just been kind of wrong so far, most of the times.
Yeah. Are there any, as we take a look, like you brought up, Ben, of course, Ichi, not exactly very much in the lead. Sure, they are in the top, but tied with 9 points, and they've played 5 matches. CDEC has only played 4. VP definitely have played one more than that, so 6 matches for them. But Ichi not completely in the clear, definitely not in the clear for something like a first-place finish in Group B. On the bottom side, too, still pretty close to call. We've got 5 points for Empire and then 4 for both Newbie and eHome. So that's still a little bit up for grabs, and maybe even who finishes, in 5th versus ACN is going to matter quite a bit because you get to choose your opponent. So that's an advantage those teams will be looking for. MVP Hot 6 not looking so good in Group B, but again, you were mentioning earlier, Ben, that you feel that they've been playing better than the score shows. So we'll see if they can take advantage of that and learn as they go into the main event. But coming back to this whole concept of giving Lesh up, are there any of their drafts that you guys really preferred or liked seeing once they gave the Lesh? For instance, in the counters, we've seen what Clink's used as a counter before. Of course, we saw the Nyx Assassin coming out. Of course, we saw C9 just going like all out straight counter, and then it ended up not being a core Lesh. But any of that really speak to you guys?
The only tried and true one that I've seen is Secret's Anti-Mage. They do a very good job of, it's pretty much a farmed Anti-Mage versus a farmed Leshrac, and those are only like 2 over-farmed heroes in the game, and the Anti-Mage just destroys the Leshrac later But that's a very particular playstyle because not every team can make everyone else around equal in terms of net worth, and not everyone else can be as efficient as that. And I also feel like a lot of teams are just scared of challenging the anti-mage in the safe lane, which I think teams should be looking to do. But other than that, we haven't seen anything like super successful just because of the flexibility of Leshrac and being able to swap him to a support role if you draft too many counters for him.
How about Husker counter?
Yeah, I was thinking
Leshrac?
Husker too, but it's a little deceptive because when you look at Lesh and fight, you're like, he is just a magic damage dealer. But if you're playing against a Husker, you just counter. It costs 1,500 gold for Leshrac to counter Husker. You buy Ghost Scepter. And then he jumps on you, you pop Ghost Scepter, and you have Edict running. And if he has taken any sort of physical damage from other sources, or just has been dropped remotely, if he hasn't, Leshrac can actually get him pretty low with the magic damage sources, and just a little bit needs to just tip him over the edge. As a one-on-one matchup, sure, but most of the times when teams pick Lesh, it's not their only core. It's Leshrac as the mid, and then you have a physical damage dealer safe lane. And then Husker is just so super situational that looking at it in isolation like that is not very likely.
Too many other good counters to Husk, I say.
Yeah.
Like we saw Timbersaw used by Vici to kill him. We
Right.
like Winter's Curse and Cold Embrace are also really good. I think the other support pool is just way too great to counter him.
That's why you would pick it as last, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah,
only,
right.
only
If
reason
you
that
see
you
the
could do that.
opening, absolutely.
Yes.
But in terms of how teams pick in the metagame and that we've seen in the tournament right now or so far, like there's been like maybe 1 or 2 games where I would have been like Husker would have been a great last pick in this particular game. It's very rare.
All right. Well, wrapping that up, we do have one more set of matches coming up. But before we go there, as we took a look at the standings, maybe something stood out to some people when we saw CDEC. They will now actually be going forward in first place as they just beat Newbie 2-0. So that's the first loss Newbie got, and it's to CDEC, whereas they've tied other teams quite confidently. But CDEC coming out super strong, and we were half, wondering if can CDEC really pull it off. Can they go 2-0 in all of their remaining matches? But they're on a good start. We've got a quick replay of the final moments of that game. Game 2, of course, in that matchup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dominated it. I only
Okay.
saw the end of it. but I'm very impressed by CDEC that they're the only team that only has 2-0s, and I mean them getting into the top 4, well deserved.
I really like the playstyle of Aggressive though. He really helps his team out early, and all it takes is like a couple of we would have lost one, and you just turn around to kill 2 people. That's like a 3-kill swing right there. All it takes is like 1 or 2 of those, and you have your early game secured. And I think he does a really good job of identifying those opportunities and helping his team out instead of playing too selfishly.
The one concern I have for CDEC is that I can't remember seeing Aggressive play any other heroes than Gyro and Quap this whole tournament. At least almost every game. He plays one of those 2.
Or Shadow
So,
Fiend.
has he played Shadowfiend?
I think so, once maybe.
Okay. Because I'm thinking if you go up against CDEC, you ban Aggressive's 2 most impactful early carries,
Yeah.
and then you try to just focus on
He
playing
plays like
your lanes.
Storm and Ember.
Okay.
Too. So he is just.
But Ember is very punishable in lane, and Storm kind of the same if you safe lane him, right? He is also punishable. So I would say that could be an approach that teams should adapt.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, maybe that works out to their advantage because either you have the choice of not banning out either of those and getting at least one of Gyro or Quap, or if they ban both, maybe Lesh is open. You can maybe take that
That's
for your
true.
team. So definitely something that can be used for your advantage. Maybe we'll see a team exploit that, and maybe we'll find out right now. Of course, CDEC is already playing their next match against Vici Gaming. That is on Stream 3. So if you want to find out if CDEC can continue this run, and what a great run it would be if they just continue to go and solidly finish in first place in Group B as a wildcard play-in. That would be incredible. So that's on Stream 3. Already started. For us here, it will be Empire versus EG coming up in a little bit, and eHome also playing another match against MVP Hot 6 on Stream 2, and that one very important for eHome. I mean, not because MVP Hot 6 is necessarily a weaker opponent, but because Hot 6 is already at the bottom, if eHome can't secure 2-0 here, their chances of going up to the top 4 are looking very slim.
Yeah, I think they, in theory, they should be able to, of course. But when we saw Hot 6 today, unlike yesterday and the games we saw earlier from them, where we thought, they definitely did also good things there today, they just didn't look up to scratch. So I'm thinking eHome will, if Hot 6 is not able to get a good pep talk, who knows? Maybe that coach is able to get that Black with his pep talks, who knows? Then I'm thinking eHome should be able to take that quite convincingly. But as you said, it's a lot of pressure, and we'll see how eHome deals with that. Mostly looking forward to Empire versus EG, though.
Yeah, Empire versus EG. Let's start talking about this just because, of course, we just watched EG But Empire, I mean, Cinderine, you joked a little bit about it earlier where you said, well, it might be kind of the worst prediction I've made so far at TI5. But at the same time, you had reasons for thinking that Empire was going to come in and look strong. So tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, what were your thoughts before, and have those reasons changed perhaps after watching them play?
I just think Empire, over the last few months, have been, maybe with one or two hiccups along the way, they've been really, really solid as a team. Like the way they draft, the way they organize the game, the way they move together, and of course they have the individual skill to back it up. Especially, I think a player that a lot of people put focus on is, of course, Resolution is widely regarded as the best mid laner in the CIS scene. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Aloha Dance, who I think has really stepped up his game on key heroes. For example, his Rubik, and I think he also plays their Wyvern. They're just a really solid team. This tournament, I think they just came off on the wrong foot in the start. It didn't work out. And now it's all about the mentality, about whether they can pull it back. Because I don't have a single doubt in my mind that if they're playing 100%, they are a top contender in this group. Like, they could easily have finished top 2. I think that might be completely out of reach now, or at least like exceptionally difficult. They need to win the remaining games, and other teams need to lose and whatnot. But at this point, they should definitely be fighting, of course, for the winner bracket. Maybe the meta has taken them a bit by surprise. What picks are priorities here? But I honestly just feel like all the really top picks are great for them. It's maybe about how they play against them, because they are a very aggressive team. They're very team fight oriented, and you just look at the picks that get picked in this tournament. I mean, it's right down Empire's alley.
When this patch came around, everybody said, everybody had to learn how to adapt to the patch. Well, Empire was already before the patch playing the same style, so that's why they started dominating at first, right? Because they already played the style that the patch favored, and I feel like just all the other teams kind of caught up on it, and now having more experience, they still play the same, yet everybody else has kind of surpassed them, or at least that's what it feels like this tournament. But if you would ask me indeed before the tournament, I would have also given Empire quite a high ranking. This tournament, I'm not sure what's thrown them off their game, but definitely something is. Although they should be more familiar with EG, I think, in terms of opponents. So if they're going to win a 2-0 series, I think this could be it.
All right. What about you, Ben? I mean, how are you looking at Empire right now? Again, rough start, but how much do we look into that?
It's tough just because it's like randomly one person just has an off game. Like Resolution on a Storm Spirit, we thought he made some dubious plays throughout, and it just always seems like they're not clicking. Like the Wisp Tiny game, they just didn't really play that well around their team. They're like always as a unit as like 2 and 3 as opposed to a unit of 5, which I kind of knew them for a few months ago. I think this matchup versus EG is actually going to be really tough. I would be surprised if they took one game off, unfortunately, just with the way that Empire has been playing throughout. But I have high hopes for them. They've traditionally matched up very well versus them. I just think they need to go back to the 5-man, maybe even like eHome's style of play that we saw in the last game. Just very tight teamwork and chemistry without any weaklings. And the more they split up, the weaker they get.
All right. And also for Empire, I mean, on our team sheet, we were talking about kind of the niche pick as that off-lane Sand King. Do you think that's going to be possibly up to contention? Because we did see it just come out for EG in the previous match.
I don't think it's anything that EG is going to be surprised by. If anything, they'll either see it coming and ban it if they don't want to face it, or they'll be prepared for it because, I mean, not only do they know it's their niche pick as well, but they also play it themselves, so they're kind of more aware of it in that case. I think it won't be a surprise, I think, for them if it comes.
But I would agree, though. It is pretty likely that this gets picked at least in one of the two games. But they play them very differently. That's the important thing to keep in mind, is that when EG pick it, it's rarely for Universe. They did do it this game in this series, though, but most of the time they put it on AUI when they feel like they can go a little bit more greedy with their lanes. When PPD identifies, okay, the enemy team is not very likely to challenge us on our safe lane, we can put Sand King in the jungle maybe 2/3 of the first 10 minutes, get a fast Blink Dagger, and then AUI goes to work. That's how they usually play it. For Empire, 9 out of 10 times it's Yoku in the offlane, and he is incredible with this Sand King and Shaker types of heroes, like